Earl, up top, rising, layup, good. It's a triple-double for Bella Earl.
Those matched up with a speedy guard. Great screen, spin move, layup, he missed it. Williamson fights for the board. His putback is good.
We've reached the halfway point of the WAC women's basketball regular season and the chase for the regular season title and those spots to the WAC tournament, the automatic spots to the WAC tournament in Las Vegas, as well as the play-in spots at Burns Arena. Joining us today on the Straight Outta WAC podcast is Utah Tech's Macie Warren. Macie, I'm sure you'd rather be out there helping your Trailblazers get out of this early season hole, but you've got a rather unique story this year that I feel like we had to tell. So thanks for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, no, thank you for wanting to listen to my story a little bit and let me tell it.
So, obviously, you were part of a highly successful, historic run last year, that a team that survived a lot of injuries as it was to get to the WAC quarterfinals. You guys beat Oregon. You did all the things, basically. And then a recurring knee injury has hampered both you and your sister. But where most athletes would take the year off, sit on the bench, and be a part of the game in that perspective, you've chosen the different perspective of the broadcast booth and putting on a headset alongside Kylie Young. Talk about how that came about.
Yeah, so through my first injury, Coach Gustin really provided us with ways to stay engaged with the team. So we had a spot on the bench next to the coaches. And that opened up for me to see the game a different way through my first injury. And so when I was injured a second time and my sister was injured a second time, Coach Gustin provided us with the opportunity to be a part of more analytical stuff and numbers with the team. And kind of trying out, we want to be coaches one day, so he wanted to give us an opportunity to do some scout work and kind of learn that side of coaching. So that's kind of where I started to do more number stuff with the game. And it just happened to be one day, the person who was doing the color commentary was graduating, and they needed me to fill in just while they found somebody new. And I thought, it'll be really cool. It's a good resume booster. I think I could say a lot of helpful things about the team just with how much I'm around them and how much I know the inside and out of how the Trailblazers play and, how we approach games. So I decided I would just fill in for one game and just kind of try it out, and it would be really fun. And they just kind of kept asking me to sub in and do the games. And then they asked me if I wanted to do the rest of the home games. And I like it. I think it's really fun. One thing that I really appreciate about it is in my position being on the bench, I started to think really negatively about the game. Just not being out there, not being able to help, I would think, why are we doing this? And why can't we make this adjustment? Why are we so slow to this adjustment? And I would just kind of pick out all the really negative things that the team was doing. And now when I watch it and I'm broadcasting, my mindset tends to shift on the positive things. And so that helps me a lot. Just being, maybe a little having resentment towards my position and just man, I can't play. I really wish I could. And I think took a little bit of a backward step in how I was seeing the game. And now through this broadcasting, I can just learn to be really positive. And as a player, I didn't ever really dive into the numbers. Of course, I knew hey, this team's shooting 30% from the three, and they shoot this from the field goal. But now I'm kind of diving into more numbers, and I think it's going to help me when I come back to play, be more just know more about the other teams, and especially in terms of scout, help me in that area. So I've really enjoyed it, and it's not really something I thought I would make a career out of, but I'm kind of really liking it so far. So
As a as a player turned broadcaster, are you watching as much tape on opponents as you did as a player?
No, I wouldn't say I watch as much tape, and it's just kind of I still watch the scout and learn the scout that the coaches have prepared for the team. But I think one thing that is really unique is I know all these teams in the WAC really well because of the scouts I've been presented as a player. I know a lot of the players' tendencies, and I know their offenses, and I know their defenses. So I think, especially now that we've gone into WAC play, it's benefited me a whole lot because I'm still watching film, but it's film from the scout work that our coaches have done. And so I think I do watch film, but no, I wouldn't say any more than when I was a player. But yeah.
Um, you talk about having a recurring ACL issue. You and your sister. How are you both doing on the road to getting back to basketball?
Yeah, we're both doing really good. I'm almost hit the year mark since surgery, and in reality, I would have been cleared and playing this season. But once my sister was hurt, it was decided to just kind of take a full year to recover and make sure we're really strong and not rush into anything. So I've just been taking it pretty slow, and I'm working back into practice right now. So that has been just amazing, just fun to be interacting with the girls in practice and in drills. So that's been a huge step for me. And my sister, her recovery is a little bit slower. She had two separate surgeries this last time. So she is at about, let's see, she's at about 9 months since her first surgery, and she just started running on the treadmill this week. So she is doing really good. She's really positive. She made a big jump. Running on the treadmill was kind of the next step for her, stepping stone. So she's really excited about that, and just taking just being really thankful for the opportunities to still be here and still be working towards playing again.
I'm gonna ask you the same thing I asked Emily Isaacson when we talked about this earlier in the year. Tougher the first time around or the second?
Um, I would say for me, it's been tougher the second time around, just because I felt like I did everything right the first time. I took rehab so seriously. I worked so hard. I hit the weight room harder. I changed my diet. I put every ounce of my energy into being ready to play again just to be back to square one. And so I feel like that at the beginning caused my motivation to um, just lack a little bit. I worked so hard, and here I am again. And then just how it's been a little bit slower for me has been, for my motivation wise, been harder. Just like, oh, I'm not trying to meet any deadlines. Like, oh, maybe I can just, it's kind of hurting today. Maybe I shouldn't go to rehab. So it's like, it has been harder the second time around to be more diligent. But that's the good thing about my sister holding my hand through it all. She's been, on the days I don't feel like doing it, she's like, no, like we have a goal. Me and you, like we have a goal, like let's go. We got to get our work in. So that's been something that's been really unique with our story, is having each other to push each other on those days where we don't necessarily feel like pushing ourselves.
Um, does the fact so I saw you got engaged a while ago. Does
Yes.
the fact that you're also trying to plan a wedding while rehabbing from another major knee surgery kind of help take your mind off the bad days?
Yeah, and I think just that extra support I'm getting from my fiance is really helpful. He's really good about, I'm really busy, a really college athlete, you're really busy. And so he's really good about understanding that schedule, and also, like, hey, could I make dinner for you? Can I do this for you? So he's just been really helpful. And then as far as planning, it's not till June. So I feel like I'm kind of procrastinating a little bit, and it's more my mom that's like, hey, like we should think about this. But it's definitely been something that I'm looking forward to and kind of keeps me excited. So
All right. Let's take a look at the first half of the year for the Trailblazers.
Mhm.
Obviously 15 or so, and then 1-6 in the WAC. You
Mhm.
guys are right now in the eighth spot, which means you would get to play in Burns Arena to start the WAC tournament. Um, Kind of talk about, as I've watched you got the Trailblazers this year, I feel like this team has been competitive for about 2.5 to 3 quarters, but they're missing that one quarter that is allowing them to get over the top in games.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this as a team, just that we lack experience having such a young roster. We have some transfers that have, that experience, and of course we have the returning players and Isaacson, who provides a lot of just veteran experience to the team. But basketball is a team sport, and it takes all five, and so that's kind of been something. Talking to my teammates, like something I'm wanting them to learn is just how to be competitive for 4 quarters, because we seem to be struggling with that, especially where I don't really get a chance to compete right now, and I want it so bad, and I like crave competition in anything. It could be whose room can be cleaner right now between me and my sister, and it's like I just want to compete so bad, and so it frustrates me when I don't necessarily see that enthusiasm from my teammates. So it's something I'm trying to challenge them to work on, especially when I come back. I'm coming with fire, and I am going to light them up if they're not as competitive as I am. So it is
That's
something we're working on.
that's something you and Kylie had mentioned in the post game show on Saturday after the UT Arlington loss. You guys hung around with UT Arlington for 3.5 ish quarters, but it got away at the end. And I think when folks would look at that score, they would say, okay, UT Arlington did what they were expected to do. They
Hmm.
won by, what was it, 15, 17, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But if you actually watch that game, it felt closer than a 15-point game.
Yeah, it really did. And I think this team has had this like little taste of what it takes to win a Division 1 basketball game. We've argued that we really haven't had a game as a group that everyone did well and everyone worked good together and did all the little things you need to do to win a Division 1 basketball game. But we see glimpses of it and tastes of it, and so I think it's trying to help the team know, like, hey, like you guys did hang with UT Arlington for 3.5 quarters, and that's maybe better than what we've done in the past this season. So I think just highlighting the growth we're making as a really young team and trying to let those girls know, like, you are making improvements. Even if it's not coming out with a win, we still are having small improvements.
We talked about some of the newcomers at the beginning. Tell me about Chardonnay Hartley's game. She has impressed from the word go to me this year. I mean, first time I saw her play against New Mexico State, she gets to the foul line like 8 times in the first quarter. And I'm thinking to myself, this might be the quickest guard first step wise in the WAC.
Yeah, I mean, she is just a really fun person off the floor. I'll talk about that first. Really fun and outgoing person, and I think she really brings a celebration aspect to our team. She's celebrating her teammates a lot in practice and being the loudest voice in cheering terms. And as far as a leader for the Trailblazer team, I think she does a pretty good job. It's kind of hard, coming in, and we're her third school, but and being on the West Coast versus the East Coast, there's a lot of different terminology and stuff like that. But she's done a really good job at adjusting to kind of the different things that our program has, and just figuring out how to, function within our system. It's a little bit different, and she's done a really good job. And I'm excited to play with her. I think she has a really good pace to the game, and she's a really good passer. And so I'm really excited to play with Hartley. And I think defensively too. I think she can get turned up a little bit defensively. And being a bigger guard, I appreciate having a smaller guard there to kind of be a gnat on defense. And so I'm really excited to play with her.
Um, Ellie Taylor has impressed for the first month of conference play. I just put out my midseason review article on our website, and I named her my freshman of the year because I feel like she's deserved it.
Yeah, she works really hard. And one thing about Ellie is, like, she might have a bad start, but all she needs is she just needs to get a little bit pissed off. And when she gets pissed off, she plays so well. And I think she's in a unique position this year where she's not really a point guard, but our roster, due to just Hartley kind of being our only true point guard, she's kind of being put in positions that she's not normally used to. And I think she's doing a really good job at handling that change, and even just the change from high school to Division One. I think she's doing a pretty good job of just adjusting to the speed of the game and the physicality of it. So she's done a really good job.
For the Trailblazers to play themselves off of that 8 line and skip the home game to start the WAC tournament in your own arena, what are you guys going to what is this team going to have to do really well over the next month?
Kind of something that's been common for this team is the coaches will say something and it doesn't get done immediately right away. Like they don't make that adjustment. And we have to, the coaches repeat themselves a couple of times. And so I think with just the short amount of time we have left, the things the coaches are telling them, they got to make that adjustment quick because, we only have a month until we get into WAC tournament. And so if we need to make an adjustment on, we're letting too many teams get offensive rebounds on us, like we got to make that adjustment and we got to make it quick because we're running out of time we only have so many practices left. We have so many games left. So we need to make sure what the coaches are saying is, it's being done and they're not having to tell us twice.
From the broadcaster's point of view, obviously the story in the WAC is GCU and their 19-game winning streak. Maybe, I don't know how much you've watched the other teams, but what's maybe a first half story that stood out to you as you're looking at scores from around the conference? Is it Utah Valley being in third place right now after being picked to finish 8th by the coaches? Is it the rise of Tarleton State? Maybe CBU already having 3 losses and being effectively out of the regular season title picture, but maybe still having a chance to play spoiler. What's kind of stood out outside of GCU for the first month of conference play?
I would definitely say UVU has kind of come to a shock for me being third. They've really made improvements in their 1-3-1 trap defense. I think it's gotten a lot better and it's been a really great tool for them. And just offensively, I think I talked about it when we played them, but they have a really veteran roster that's played together for a while and played for Coach Dan for a while. So I think they bring an experience, and they've surprised me a little bit in the WAC. And then as well as Tarleton, they kind of exhibit the same characteristics of having a veteran team who's been playing together. And I think they're kind of a dark horse. They're pretty good. They're more, in my opinion, more of a defensive team than an offensive team. But I think they're kind of a dark horse, and I personally love the way CBU plays, in transition. I really like watching them play, and I wouldn't count them out. I think, they've had some injuries too and some players having to sit out. So, but I really like the way CBU plays, and I do like to see them succeed. So
you talk about the second half of this schedule. You're going to get to play CBU. Utah Tech's going to get to play CBU twice down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I think you guys still have both with Southern Utah.
Yeah, 2 SUU games.
Mm-hmm. It's been a really interesting schedule, but to have those 2 matchups still have not seen both of those teams. How weird is it to have gotten to February and not seen everybody once?
I think it is a little weird, and as far in terms of traveling, it's worked out in our benefit. I think we got the hard trips out of the way, so I think it's benefited us to play teams twice. And but I think we are, in terms of getting a real taste for the WAC, that's been something that has lacked. For our young roster, they haven't gotten to play everybody and really know how the WAC is, and how the unique thing about the WAC is any team can win at any given night. It's kind of been proven over my last 3 years here that you got to be ready and you got to come to every game prepared. And so I think our team just really hasn't quite gotten the taste of that, playing the same teams.
Um, you look at the end of last year. You guys beat SFA in the regular season finale. You got a game in Vegas, and then you gave UTA a game. Did you feel like there was a ton of momentum, behind this team coming into the year, and that maybe a lot of it's been taken out with injuries and then the struggles to put a full 40 minutes together?
Um, yeah, I think it's been a little bit of a challenge just coming into it. We had such great leadership last year with Gillen and McCord. They were just on the floor and off the floor, just really great leaders. And I think coming into this year, um, not having, of course, Isaacson is a leader, but her coming back from an injury herself and really focusing on that, that's a different side of the game that's mentally challenging, is to come back from an injury. And so I think we haven't had early on a true leader who really understands how the program works and understands, what are our core characteristics and what is our culture within this program. And so I think without that leadership, it kind of, that's where we kind of see us not being able to finish out a full 40 minutes, is because we don't have someone who really knows what it takes in terms of how we go about our business as Trailblazers to finish out a game. So I think that was kind of a challenge for us heading into this year, is we just don't have someone who's been here long enough who can kind of lead this team.
All right. Let's get to some second half predictions. Um, how many wins do you think it will take for the Trailblazers to get off that 8 line into Vegas?
Um, I think we got to win at least 3 out of our next 6. We've got to get SCU at home. If we can get Abilene on the road, I think that'll be great. And CBU at home. I think those are games that we can all win. Especially if we just go into it with that mentality of protecting our home court. That's something we've tried to get this team to understand a little bit too this year, is, we gotta play the best in our building and make it so other teams don't play their best in our building. So I think if we can just take it one game at a time, starting with maybe ACU tomorrow, and next week really focus on the rivalry game. There's a lot of emotions that go into a rivalry game. But if we can get just one game at a time, we'll focus on that. But if we can get ACU and SUU, hopefully we can build some momentum.
So you think it'll take 4 and 12 to get into Vegas? Skip the Burns Arena round and then go straight to Vegas.
Yeah, and I do think if we were 8th and we played in Burns Arena, people are, there's been some speculation like that's an advantage for us, but being at the bottom, I don't really see it as being an advantage. We're at the bottom for a reason. So
You have to play one more game. You don't get the advantage of that bye that the 1 and 2 will get.
yeah, so I think either way, we just need to display a little more, I think, pride in protecting our home court, and I think that can help us get some more wins and maybe put us in a better position.
All right. Who is going to have to step up on this Trailblazer roster to get you guys to that 4, 5, 6 win mark and straight to Vegas? Aaliyah Ibarra has had moments in the non-conference, the 36 against McNeese, which I so wanted to watch that game on tape, but McNeese didn't stream it.
Yeah. Honestly, it is coming from our bench. You look at history of our games, our bench points have been absent. They've been not present at all. And so I think, our starters playing a lot of minutes, heavy minute kids, and they're having to do a lot. I think when those bench players are coming in, they need to be ready to go and give us a few good minutes while, Emily gets a break and can rest her knee, and, Nay can take a breather, especially just the pace she plays with and how often the ball is in her hands. I think when they do get those little breaks, the subs coming in off the bench have to be a lot better and they have to step up and be more prepared when they enter into the game and produce stats when they enter the game.
All right. Does GCU finish the regular season undefeated?
Um, I really hope they don't. But thus far, they're a really talented team, and we saw it a little bit in UVU versus GCU. UVU maybe had them scared for a second, but I do think that they they have a really good chance at doing so.
All right. I know you haven't seen everybody yet. You'll see CBU here in the next week or two. You'll see Southern Utah here in the next week or so.
Hmm.
But at this juncture, who do you believe is the WAC player of the year?
Ooh, I have always loved watching Brittingham play from UT Arlington since she was at SFA. I think uh, even just watching her warm up, I think she's a really great leader. In warm up, she's constantly talking, directing everybody. And personally, she has a little bit of a nastiness to her that when she plays, and I like that. I think we don't see that as often in women's sports. But I think she's a really good player, a really good leader. Um, yeah, I've always liked to watch her play. So she is one to me that I would say so.
Okay. Um, do you think Coy Love finishes as newcomer of the year on March the 8th?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when I first watched tape on Love, we were talking as a staff who's going to guard Brittingham, and I watched some tape and I said, who's going to guard Love? I watched her shoot a pull up three in transition off the bounce, and she rebounds underneath, and she's strong. She's a three-level scorer. I think she can get newcomer of the year. I think she's also a really just talented player.
All right. Let's see. Which team that is in that 6, 7, 8 hole outside that 6, 5, 6, 7 area will climb to the 2, 3, 4 by the time we finish? Or which team is most likely to be able to do that?
Um,
Obviously, you have ACU, who's been
yeah.
shorthanded in recent games, CBU, who's been injured in that area. Utah Valley and Tarleton are both tied it for third right now.
Yeah, I think with the injuries that ACU and CBU has seen, I'm not sure who will be still continuing to play for either team. Um, but I would like to see CBU climb the ranks. I think are they 3-3 right now?
4-3 at this point.
4-3. So I think they've got some momentum. Again, they're a team I would like to see us beat, but I think that just the style of play that they have, I think that they can make their way up there.
All right. Let's do a little get to know the Trailblazers here
Okay.
before we close out. Who is the team's resident foodie?
Nicole Willardson.
She's the one that's kind of looking on Yelp. Hey, and planting the bug in the GA or the ops person's ear. Hey, let's go eat here.
Yeah, and I would just say she just loves food. Everywhere we go, when we travel, she really loves hamburgers. She loves a good hamburger. She loves pizza. So I just say she is the most, I think, enthusiastic when it comes to the places we eat on the road.
All right. Who's got the team's biggest sweet tooth?
Ooh, I would say I would say Cal and Dallas.
Okay.
For a while, there was a crumble cookie kick with Dallas. And she is a really good baker, so she bakes a lot of good treats too.
Okay. Um, who is the fastest to fall asleep on the team flight?
I would say Aaliyah Barra.
Like wheels up out or like when you're taxiing?
Um, yeah, well, just this last road trip I was able to be a part of was to GCU, and I think she probably slept 80% of the trip while we were traveling. So I would say Abara.
Okay. Who is who's the most likely to be the last one to the team bus leaving for the airport?
Hmm, that is a good question. I think we're all pretty punctual. Um, but I would maybe say Lauren Crocker.
Okay. All right. And then we'll close with a little rapid fire action here.
Okay.
All right. We'll start with what is one show that is on the Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, Tubi streaming list right now?
I am studying to be a history teacher, so I've been told that American Primeval is one that I should look into because it's a little bit about history in southern Utah. So,
Okay. Um, what is your favorite trip and non-Utah trip in the WAC?
um, I mean, traveling to Texas is pretty hard. Like it's a long flight, but I really do enjoy going and getting barbecue in Texas. So I would say Texas.
All right. Um, what is your favorite off-campus dining spot in St. George?
Hmm. Most frequently visited would be Texas Roadhouse.
Okay. And then, what is one item that is on your sports fan bucket list?
Um, that is a good question. I was able to attend a WNBA game, the Las Vegas Aces, as a team, 2 summers ago, and I would like to be able to do that more. I think just watching women's sports in general, so I think just getting to do more of that with Vegas being so close.
Okay. And then best and worst subjects in school.
Best is history, and the worst for me would be math.
You're just like me. Um, okay, so I was a little bit of a history junkie. I took an entire semester on the Civil War when I was at a Southern California JUCO while
hmm
assisting a high school team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was kind of an ops person for one of our local high schools here, and I had a class the day of a playoff game, and I had to do a presentation in that class.
Oh, shoot.
And then literally, I had to ask the professor, I was like, Dr. Hanks, can I go first on, to do the presentation, right? He looked at
hmm
me and was like, Trujillo, go right ahead. I did the presentation. I nailed it. I got like a 95 or something. Literally grabbed all my stuff, busted it from the classroom to the parking lot, got into my car, did 70 all the way up the freeway, got to school 10 minutes before the bus left.
That's crazy. Is Civil War? Now, I have a question for you.
Okay.
In terms of history, what is your favorite subject to study? It can be world or American.
Okay, so I consider myself a bit of a specialist on the Pacific Theater in World War II,
Okay.
um, and then a bit of a specialist on the space race. So if you want something good to watch on one of those whack trips, look up the documentary Moonshot.
Moonshot.
It's on YouTube. It's told from the perspective of Deke Slayton, who was the director of flight crews during the Apollo program.
Okay.
So it starts literally from when they announced the Mercury 7 in 1957 all the way to Skylab in 1973 and everything in between.
You're not a conspiracy theorist that the
N-
moon landing was never real.
nope, I'm not one of those. Um, and then also Unauthorized History of the Pacific War podcast. That's another good one.
Okay.
And they've got 4 seasons, so that should more than kill a couple of trips.
There you go.
Um, all right. You talked about women in sports. Today is national. As we're recording this, it's Wednesday, and it's National Women and Girls in Sports Day. What does this day mean to you?
Um, I think it just means a lot to me personally with the opportunities I've been given through sports and the connections I've been able to make. It's memories, relationships, lessons learned that I wouldn't have learned any other way. And I'm getting an education, doing what I love. So it just means a lot to me because I would not be where I am today without being able to do what I do. So I am really thankful for it and the opportunities presented to female athletes through it.
All right, Macie, we're rooting for you and your sister to get back to the court here soon, whether that's this year or next. I know the Trailblazers are on the road at ACU next week or this week, but you return to the mic next Thursday for a big homestand there next week, and look forward to hearing the call on ESPN Plus.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Straight Outta Whack podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember to follow Whack Hoops Nation on all your favorite social media platforms.